Hi, everyone. This is Allison. I'm an account manager at RunSignUp, and welcome to our webinar on the RunSignUp volunteer platform. So I just wanted to take a moment to remind you, if you do have any questions that come up during this webinar, please feel free to enter them into the questions section on your GoToWebinar module. I'm not going to answer them during the presentation, but I'll take a look at them at the end and try to go over as many as I can. If we aren't able to get through all the questions during this webinar, we'll be sure to have an account manager or a sales rep from RunSignUp reach out to you with answers. So today we're going to go through the volunteer platform, and you can set up a volunteer registration for your race from the volunteer tab on your race dashboard. I'm going to walk you through the volunteer setup for my race, Michael Scott, Dunder Mifflin, Scranton, Meredith Palmer Memorial Celebrity Rabies Awareness Pro-Am Fun Run Race for the Cure. And if you haven't watched The Office, I'm sorry in advance. So from the setup tab, you're going to be able to create volunteer tasks. Tasks are the basic unit of work, and this is what a race needs volunteers for. So a water stop, packet pickup, race day registration are all examples of volunteer tasks. You can click the green Add a Task button to create a new task, or you can edit an existing task. You can scroll to the task that you'd like to edit, or you can quickly jump to it by clicking the links under Jump to a Task. There's also an easy export option at the top of the page where you can download all of your current volunteer tasks. So when you get to a task, when you're either creating or editing an existing task, you're going to be able to add some details to your volunteer task, including information where you can explain more details about the task, location information, which is where volunteers are going to need to report for duty. You're going to be able to add a minimum and maximum age limit to the specific task. And this can be really useful if you want to make sure that your volunteers are above a certain age for a certain task, so that you can avoid a situation where you have like 10-year-olds volunteering to hand out beers to runners after their race. You're also able to add a task coordinator. So this is going to be the leader for a specific task. And when a task coordinator is added, they're going to receive an automated email notification. And that email will contain a link so that they can sign up within the RunSignUp system. And from that, they're going to be able to see all the volunteers who have signed up for the task that they're in charge of. And they're also going to be able to import volunteers and send email communication to all the volunteers in their task. A task by default is going to be public, so that means that when people go to register for that task on your race website, they'll be able to see it. You can also make the task private by unchecking this box. This could be useful if you have a task that is specifically set aside for a group. So for example, if I already know that the high school cross country team is going to be working packet pickup, I can make my task private and just upload them so I don't have anyone else signing up online. You're also able to come up with a password that volunteers would have to enter in order to sign up for the task. So those are kind of two options where you can limit who is and who isn't able to sign up for a certain task. You're also able to import volunteer tasks from a CSV file. And this could be really useful if you're migrating your volunteer data from another platform, or if you have a lot of different volunteer tasks. You're going to label the columns in your CSV file however you would like. And when you import the CSV file, you'll be able to review the data mapping so that you can match the fields in your CSV file to the data fields that exist in RunSignUp. So once you have finished creating or uploading your tasks, you can scroll to the bottom of the page. You'll see here that you can edit the volunteer waiver. It's pre-populated by default with RunSignUp standard waiver text. It's the same one that appears in the race wizard, but you can edit this and once you finish making your changes, you can just click Save and Continue. So once you click Save and Continue, this is going to bring you to Step 2, or to the Customization tab on your Volunteers tab. So this is where you're going to be able to add some more details, including time slots for the date, as well as the hours that volunteers are needed, the minimum and maximum number of volunteers that are needed for a specific task, as well as any additional resources that you might need for a certain task. So for a water stop, for example, you might need cups, you might need volunteers to bring water. Just as a note, these resources are going to be visible on the front end to volunteers. So that's just kind of like a note. You may or may not want to use this capability when you're setting up the details for your volunteer task. So once you've finished setting up your task details, including time slots and minimum and maximum number of volunteers, again, you're going to scroll to the bottom of the page and click Save and Continue. And this is going to bring you to categories. So you can think of categories as a collection of tasks. So here I've created 2 different categories. I have one called Packet Pickup, and I've grouped my 2 different packet pickups. I have one that's happening in the office and one that's happening in the warehouse together under a single category of Packet Pickup. And I've also grouped my water stops, which are at different locations, into a single task category called Water Stops. Just like you're able to add a task coordinator, you're also able to add a category coordinator who's in charge of a category of tasks. So you'll see here, Bob Bickle's been added as the task or the category coordinator for all the water stops. And that means that he's going to be able to see all the volunteers who sign up to volunteer for Water Stop 1 or Water Stop 2. He's going to be able to send emails to them, and he's also going to be able to import any offline volunteers to either of those tasks. So once you finish setting up your categories, you can click Save at the bottom of the page, and then we're going to go on to volunteer questions. So volunteer questions are really useful so that you can collect additional information from volunteers when they sign up to volunteer for a task. I really recommend this if you have want to give out t-shirts to your volunteers. You're going to create a custom question for these t-shirts since the volunteers are not connected to the giveaway that you have set up in your registration path for your regular race. So the questions in volunteers on the volunteer platform are set up just like the custom questions that you would use in a race. You'll see here I've created 3 different questions. So I have one to collect t-shirt sizes. I have one asking if the volunteer has rabies, and I have one asking how they got rabies. So similar to how we have the question logic in custom questions, I also have the question like, how did you get rabies, only being asked to people who say yes, that they do have rabies. Again, this is all related to the office, and I'm sorry if you don't know what I'm talking about. So now that we've set up all of our tasks and categories, as well as our volunteer questions, let's take a look at how this looks on the front end. So this is my race website, and volunteers are going to be able to sign up to volunteer by clicking on the volunteer tab on your race website menu. So similar to how we could jump to a certain task or a certain category on the back end when we were setting things up, volunteers will also be able to have that capability. So if your volunteer knows that they want to volunteer for a water stop, they'll just be able to click on that link and it'll bring them right down to that part of the page. And this is definitely a useful feature when you have a large number of tasks set up. You'll see here for Water Stop 1, some of the tasks are grayed out and it says that they are full. So RunSignUp will automatically gray these out if you've set a maximum number of volunteers and that has already been filled, so that you don't get 20 volunteers signing up for a task that only needs 2 people. So when a volunteer wants to sign up for a task, they'll just be able to click the time slot and the date that they want to volunteer for, and they'll click the volunteer button. And that's going to bring them to a registration path that looks pretty similar to how it looks when you would sign up for a race. It's, you know, you can kind of go through and you'll see that our volunteer questions that we set up are right here. And so your volunteers will be able to go through that and sign up for any task that they want. So let's go back to the race dashboard now, and I'll take you through some other tools and features in our volunteer platform. I'm just going to take you back to the setup tab before we go through the other tabs here, and I want to show you a couple of like hidden features. So if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see that there's a tab here for email customization. So when a volunteer signs up for a task, or if their task is switched, they'll receive an automated email notification. And you can click on one of these links to edit how that notification looks when it goes out. It's pretty standard. It's going to create it's going to have some automated pre-populated text here that's kind of hard-coded in. And it'll be, you know, specific to the volunteer who signs up. It'll give them the information that they input when they registered, as well as the details about the task that they're volunteering for. And up here, you'll be able to add, if you want to add a special thank you note to them, or if you want to include some more details that aren't on the automated email, you can go ahead and add that in here. So the other thing on the setup tab is right here, you have some advanced options. You can expand it with this little arrow on the side. So right here, you have an overall task password, and that will apply a password to all of the tasks that volunteers would have to enter in order to sign up for any of the tasks. So this generally isn't going to be very useful, but I think what is really useful is under the registration settings, the second checkbox is prevent volunteers from registering for overlapping time slots for all volunteer tasks. So that'll make sure that you don't have like some overachiever that tries to sign up for a bunch of tasks, but then they all turn out to be happening at the same time. So I think it's always nice to kind of check that. And there's also an option right below that where you can allow volunteers to leave a comment for the race. And that'll just appear as a text box in the volunteer sign-up path. So if a volunteer wants to communicate anything like, you know, a disability, or if they want to just say thank you to a race when they're signing up to volunteer, they'll be able to enter that information and you'll be able to view it. So those are two cool advanced options that you might want to use for your volunteer setup. So if we go back to our menu items, we're going to go to the import tab. So obviously, volunteers can sign up online through your race website, that registration path that we just walked through, but you also have the option to import your volunteers if they sign up offline. And you can do this in two different ways. You can either import a list of volunteers from a CSV, and you can upload that right here. Again, you're going to be able to map the data from your file to the fields within RunSignUp. So it's a really simple tool for uploading a lot of volunteer data. There's also an option to enter the volunteer data manually one by one. And we have this really easy form so that you can input the information. You can add multiple volunteers at once. Just click the green Add Another Volunteer button. And when you're done, click Import Volunteers. So next, we're going to look at the reports that you have available to your volunteer coordinator. So when you click on the report menu item, you're going to have two options. The first is the summary report. And this is a really nice report. It lets you view your overall progress in meeting your volunteer goals. So the report shows you how many volunteers are needed for a task versus how many have signed up. And it really quickly lets you know if more volunteers are needed or if the task is fully staffed. If you want to export this report, you can just click the download CSV link at the bottom of the table. It's small, but it's there. The other report option that you can go to is cleverly named report. And this report is actually where you can do a lot of things. So you're going to be able to manage volunteers. You're also going to be able to download a CSV of all of your volunteer data. You can view a customized per task report, and you're going to be able to search by name or email for a specific volunteer record. So to manage volunteers, whether it's to edit their personal information, switch them from one task to another task, or remove them as a volunteer, you're just going to click the Manage button in the far right corner column of an individual record. So from here, you're going to be able to resend that confirmation email to that volunteer if they forgot their information and just want to receive it again. You can also edit any of their data that they put in here, and you can remove them entirely from an assignment. If we go back to the report, you'll see up here there's an easy search tool, and you'll be able to search for a specific volunteer's record on their first name, their last name, or their email. The download as CSV is right here again, as it was on the summary report, where you can pull all of the volunteer data into an Excel file. At the top of the page, there's a green button that says Per Task Report, and when you click on this, it's going to give you a report that's broken down by task. And you'll be able to download your volunteers by a specific task, or you can just view and manage them from this view. All right, moving on, we're going to go to the communication tool. So the communication tool on RunSignUp is really, really simple, but it does enable you to effectively and efficiently communicate with your volunteers. So you can see here that you can select your email recipients along a lot of different parameters. You can select them by the category that they signed up for. You can select them by the specific task or even by the specific time slot. You're also going to be able to email individual task coordinators by category or task, and you're also going to be able to add any custom recipients that you would like to receive the email. To further customize your emails, you're going to be able to use these special tags, and these are replacement tags just like in our email marketing system, but they're specific to volunteers. So when you're using these tags, they're going to be automatically replaced for each recipient, and you have to make sure that you match the tag exactly, including using all uppercase. So an easy way to do that is just to, do a quick copy and paste into your email document. So when you go to write an email, you're just going to be able to paste that in, and it will be automatically replaced when you send it for that specific volunteer recipient information. So you'll see here you can replace on task the time slot that they signed up for, the location of their volunteer task, and any additional information that you entered in the setup volunteer. The last part of the volunteer platform that you're going to be able to go over is coordinator notifications. So this is specific to task and category coordinators, and it's going to allow these leaders to select whether or not they want to receive an email notification each time a volunteer signs up for the task or the category for which they are the coordinator. So I'm not a task or category coordinator, so this isn't showing up on my screen, but the coordinators will simply be able to check a notification box on or off and save those settings. And that is the volunteer platform on RunSignUp. And I am going to go through a couple of the questions that I've had. So the first question is, can volunteers sign up for multiple tasks? Yes, volunteers can sign up for multiple tasks. Again, when we went through those advanced settings on the bottom of the setup tab, you're going to be able to actually require that volunteers can only register for one time slot at a time. So if you don't want them to sign up for multiple things at once, you can click that. You can also click the setting to make sure that they're not where they can sign up for multiple tasks at once, but where they can't sign up for tasks that overlap in terms of time slots right here. So we have another one, ongoing requests for volunteer registration. We want to include the emergency contact name and phone number questions as preset options, just like runner registration. Yeah, so we don't have those actually as preset options right here, which we can definitely add as a ticket for our developers. But in the meantime, as a quick fix to that, you can really easily just click add a question, and you can, you know, add a question specifically for what is your emergency contact name and what is the emergency contact phone number, and you'll be able to customize that so you get a specific response right here. So it does take an extra 2 minutes to set up, but it is still possible to get that very important information collected. Can you set up volunteer emails ahead of time and schedule them to be automatically sent at a later date? So within the volunteer module on RunSignUp, it's a really, really simple email communication tool. It does not enable pre-scheduled emails. However, if you have full access to your rates dashboard, if you go to your email marketing and you click on send emails, you'll see that you have an option right here where you can send emails to volunteers. And this will give you a lot more advanced options for sending out volunteer emails, including like if you want to pre-schedule something, or if you want to be able to send an attachment out via email. So you'll just be able to add all of the volunteers here. This green button here also lets you show volunteer tasks. So you won't be able to get quite as many like disaggregated parameters that you can send an email out for, but you'll still be able to send for like different tasks for the volunteers that have signed up. So just as like if you're looking for more advanced email settings, you can use the email marketing within RunSignUp to do that. Of course, the other option is you can always go back to your report of all of your volunteers, download as a CSV, and you'll be able to just copy and paste these email addresses into whatever email client you're using to be able to send out a volunteer email. So yeah, I think those are kind of the main questions that have been asked. For other questions that I haven't gotten a chance to go over, we will send out an email with any sort of follow-up. So if you do have any other questions, feel free to type them into the question module, or just feel free to email to your account manager or sales rep, or to the info@RunSignUp, and we'll be sure to get back to you with specific answers to any of your volunteer questions. So thank you all for attending today, and yeah, be sure to check out any of our upcoming webinars, as well as any of our previously recorded webinars. It's a great way to get some insight into any part of RunSignUp that you are interested in learning more about. So thank you all for attending, and have a great day.